So for this episode, we'll be talking to Daniel Maan. He is a longtime gamer with a special love for narrative games. We'll be talking to him because, as you've no doubt noticed in the last few episodes, the audience has been a very important part in the whole concept of uh, the theoretical aspects of this whole video series, and the goal of the video game developer is to try to capture the attention of audiences. So we'll try to talk to him and ask him how he has been impacted by narratives in video games and how these are sort of different or unique in terms of experience from other mediums of visual communication like films and TV shows. So again, we'll try to ask him whether or not these have impacted him more, less, and what are the differences between video games and other forms of entertainment. So hello. So in the last few interviews that we had with our storytelling and video game industry experts, we discussed how narratives in any form of visual communication has an end goal of entertaining or impacting its audience. Uh, there are, in fact, in the two theories of communication, the medium theory and media studies, they argue on what the audience is most influenced by, the medium or the message itself. So with that, we will now turn our attention to an actual audience of video games, a video gamer, uh, and we'll get his opinion, his insights on how video games have shaped them, especially narratives in video games. So, hello, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Daniel Christopher P. Maan. I have been playing video games since around 2003 or 2004 when I got my very first console, which was the Game Boy Advance. I've had an extensive background of playing story-based video games compared to the more competitive video games,
Yes.
which is why I prefer to play on consoles.
Uh,
Okay.
So,
I just what made me continue in playing video games is just really the entertainment factor of that video games that give. It gives me the freedom to choose
yeah.
um, the freedom to choose the actions of the characters that partake in a very in a good story. So which is why I really need a good story as a context of where my character operates. That's how I get invested in story-based video games, and why I like story-based video games more.
So I take it that stories are integral to your personal video game experience. Would
Yes.
you think this is the most important aspect?
Yes, most definitely. Because I believe that the story is what gives the game's identity as a true art form. Sure, the gameplay mechanics is very important. It's actually what makes a game engaging, so to speak, for many consumers. If the gameplay keeps you going, then perhaps it's a game that you will play again and again. But for me, a game is becomes memorable as a true art form if it has a really good and engaging story, something that connects to you personally, as well as something where the character faces many different challenges, which really inspires me in a way. So yes, most definitely, it's an integral part of playing video games, the story.
Right. So with that in mind, have you played this one game? Because a part of my a main part of my project is this particular game called Red Dead Redemption 2. Have you played this game?
Yes, actually, I've been very excited to talk about this game for the longest time. Actually, me and my friends, we've been talking about this game since the first Red Dead Redemption, and
Mm,
much more so with updated gameplay mechanics as well as uh, a larger game world. This sequel,
yeah,
much awaited sequel, is one of the most memorable stories in video game playing history for me personally.
I see, I see. So, why do you think that the story has stuck with you? The story, the world, the characters. Why do you think it stuck with you? Because after all these years, because a quick internet search would reveal that it was released 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago. So I do assume that the story has stuck with you. And could you tell us why?
Um, well, you know, um, number one, it would be really the entertainment factor. The developers of the game, Rockstar Games, made it a point that this game will stick you with you for the years to come. So they wrote a really nice story, something that talks about many things like betrayal, um, some character development, a villain arc, what else? Yes, all those things are the game is basically a melting pot of good stories or yes stories that uh, make such a world so alive within it.
Yeah.
So yes, that I find it one of the most entertaining video games I've ever played, which is why it brought me up in many challenging times through those 5 years. I find myself playing it occasionally. I wouldn't say that often since you know but yes, through the pandemic, most definitely, I had to have another run with the story because it was just that good. Um, yeah, and then another, well, when it comes to me personally, I wouldn't say that I relate much to the characters because it's very unique.
Yes.
The main character, Arthur Morgan, didn't really, I didn't share the same struggle as him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the storytelling is so what engaging, the script, the writing and the structure and like the suspense of it all just makes it very memorable for me, which is why yes, it may not be relatable to me personally, especially in my life, but I had a sense of connection to the character because they gave a rich story that makes me feel invested. I didn't want, well, spoiler alert, but I didn't want him to die. But that's how effective their writing really was. So there you go. That's my answer with regards to connection to the story. My the impact of the story to me personally.
So props to the developers for making a really great story in this particular medium of visual communication. Um, so so you did say that it was a good story, right? One of my previous interviewees mentioned that a story the traditional story has a beginning, middle, end in sort of an arching manner. Did you feel that the characters went through this traditional storytelling arc? Oh,
Mm. Yeah, I would say story wise, I didn't feel confused or the thing is it's a prequel, so I already know what's gonna
that's
happen in the end. Like in the game, one of your most important allies. or actually he was your leader, Dutch van der Linde.
Yes,
I knew already that he was gonna be a villain in the well, I would say sequel, but then it's
the
uh
original game.
the original one. Yes. So in a sense, I already knew the build up, even though there have been a lot of twists and turns within the story. But I would say it's really sound. I think I felt satisfied with how things turned out, even though I knew the fate of some characters already because this is a prequel, but it kept me engaged still. I like stories that are very cohesive, very coherent, and where things happen chronologically and it makes sense. So yes, I would say the structure wise, it's a very sound story.
All
You can
right.
really see it through how the characters evolve. It's really how the
Mm,
characters evolve from brotherhood and keeping the gang together to survival versus betrayal, right? So that's like how it ended. So there you go.
all right. Very interesting points. So next, so the story, right? Let's go back to the story, the characters, the world. Um, do you think that the fact that it was presented in via the medium of a video game, did you think that that enhanced the story, that enhanced you getting to know the characters, getting to know the world, the lore, etc.? Oh, your personal connection to it.
Yeah, most definitely. For me, video games is the supreme form of entertainment or
Oh,
storytelling. No, in books you can only get too much. You can just imagine things. In movies or TV shows, you can just walk with the story and just see how things unfold. Whereas in video games, you actually have an influence. I mean, even if it has a linear story in other story-based video games, at the end of the day, you can still die, right? Or you
yeah.
can still have a game over screen in your
Yes.
screen. So yes, most definitely, it video games as a medium of communication of a story is revolutionary to so to speak, because it has everything. You follow through the journey of the protagonist, which is why I sincerely believe that if a game doesn't have an interesting protagonist, then you have ruined the game. So there.
Well, we are lucky that, according to a lot of sources out there, that this game does have arguably one of the best protagonists in video game history. So
Yes.
that's already a plus for you and a lot of gamers. Right? So to follow that up, so yeah, you were. Would you say that you were truly immersed in the world, the story, because you were playing as the character? You were the one who was taking control. Your actions were their actions.
Okay. What makes this particular video game, Red Dead Redemption 2, superior as of the game world being a storyteller, is that the world is just so alive. Um, there are so many animals in the wilderness and so many world events that makes you feel like you're a real cowboy who or an outlaw who just wanders through the wild west and um just do what they do, crime and outlaw stuff. um it's really an important part of the video game, the world, because um it makes you feel like you're there. You're like you're actually Arthur Morgan. You're following his story, even though there's one fate for characters. Like, I mean, in the end, it's already a predetermined path. It's like you're walking into their shoes. It's kind of like you're being more empathetic to them if you have
Mm.
a good character as well as a game that's alive. I mean, the game world is alive, something that speaks to you. If the context of the world represents a lot of an important piece of history, which is during those times, late 18 oh sorry late 20th century in the United States. So sorry, 19th
I'm
century.
19.
So yeah.
All right. That was very interesting. Um, so um, do gameplay elements such as world design, sound design, character design, level design, etc. Do these help in you becoming more immersed or more invested in the whole package of the video game story, lore, characters, etc.?
Yes, for me, when I see good gameplay, uh an alive game world, good character design, I see the effort of all the artists that put their time and blood, sweat, and tears into designing or in making such a masterpiece. So, yes, all those elements are very important in conveying an a game, conveying that their game is an excellent game. So because I get to reach to the minds of the artists who gave their effort in such a good product.
I see. So so let's go back to the gameplay, right? So it's it's a little bit unique how Rockstar was able to execute for example little tiny things, the movement of the characters, the way that they pick up objects. It's very very realistic, right? So um does this help uh lure you further into the world, or does that sort of bore you and then sort of take you out of the experience?
For me, no, being very realistic, or mirroring, it's like mirroring real life. I mean, if you make something or create something very realistic, it just almost feels like it's just copying the real world. So I wouldn't say it's a necessary element in making a great game. But for me, it's all about how you want to tell the reality of the game. Like, there are a bunch of other games, or yeah, the bunch of other games that are stylized and um like framed on how the director or how the creator wants it uh, to be. A really prominent example of that is Hideo Kojima. He has
Uh-huh.
such a very imaginative and I'd say bizarre interpretations of the real world,
Yeah.
um, especially in the old Metal Gear games. Those are definitely contextualized in the Cold War and many realistic settings, but he gave his own flavor in the whole story. So no, it doesn't. It's not necessary for a game to be that realistic in order to convey such excellence in the games.
Well, that's actually the second time that Kojima came up in our episodes. We also talked
Wow.
about him before, um, on how uh, he does seem like he belongs in the world of Hollywood. but he's decided to transplant all of those to the world of video game design, video game development. So it also goes to show how interconnected these various mediums of communication are, how they take and give from one another, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, he much with much deserved praise. So yeah, I just wish that he didn't get to leave Metal Gear.
Yeah, that's true. So let's go back to Red Dead Redemption. Um, Again, always talk about the story and all of that. Do you think that it could have worked just as well if it were told in another medium of visual communication, like a movie or a TV show?
Hmm. No, I don't think so because number one, we're already familiar of the story. It doesn't have any or I mean, if you wanna make a show, it has to have its own, it has its own like it needs to draw the viewers in a different way. You can't expect everyone or the old fans to just watch it again because it's gonna be redundant. So I think they did an excellent job in doing that in The Last of Us, because it drew in a lot more viewers. So, but in Red Dead Redemption, it's possible, yes, if they did something like The Last of Us, but maybe for me personally, not as quite because for me, it's playing as Arthur makes me feel, or playing as John makes me feel that it's it's what gives the story its identity as a really good art form. You get to live as
Uh,
Arthur Morgan. So um, quality wise, maybe I guess if people just prefer to watch, but me personally, no. I believe that playing video games is much more different, and I'd say there's a much superior than just watching characters and watching movies.
yes. So I take it that for you the experience, the story uh was better fleshed out here in the video game medium. Um because like you said, you do get to play as them. You are them, right? Instead of
Yeah.
being just a spectator and having some information withheld from you. Is that the part?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, that's correct. Being able to walk into their shoes makes the story much more relatable. You get to have a connection with the art form, which is the video game itself.
Um so you did say that you really enjoy video games and then you think that they are a superior form of storytelling. So does that mean that for you that video games um can tell stories with the same sophistication, if not more, I guess, more sophistication than again movies or TV shows?
Mm, well, yes, sophisticated, I guess, in the sense that anything could happen. I mean, it depends on the gameplay choice. Like, there are some games that offer you really important choices in the game that can change the outcome of the whole story.
Yeah, that's
But yes, I guess in that sense, it's more sophisticated. But I'd say that some other video games that are just purely story based that let you experience the whole package, I'd say it can just work as well as a good movie. There are good movies as well that offer that same level of uh, intricacy or sophistication in the whole storytelling. Uh, that's why I like movies that has twists and um, very important mysteries like I can't yeah, but um at the end of the day, you know video games just offer so much more. um it your hand-eye coordination keeps you
Yep.
alive in the whole experience. So yeah, there you go. That's why I in some sense, yes, movies are still still really good. They can give the same level of sophistication in terms of stories, but everything else, video games have the upper hand.
Ah. So, so would you say that this medium video games can be considered in the same mainstream now as movies or TV shows in like, general acceptance? Because um we did come from a time when video games were just considered like this side entertainment, right? That it wasn't really taken seriously as an art form. So with games like Red Dead Redemption, with Kojima's work and all of that, do you think that they finally achieved this level of uh, acceptance on par with these other forms of visual communication?
Mm, yeah, I guess so. Before video games used to be just like arcade games, like Pong and Street Fighter. There's no real story with it, but nowadays they've injected really good stories in video games lately, which is why video game industry is such an um, important piece of history or a very good industry that will thrive for the years to come.
Also, m- a lot of movies also get their stories from video games. So there's also that
Yes,
particular aspect of acceptance from them.
yes, that's true.
So so with that, I guess you've answered all of my questions. So
Yeah.
yeah, this was very insightful. I did glean a lot from what you said. From how video games are uh, more immersive, the stories are more immersive, and how they've more or less gotten the mainstream acceptance of people. So yeah, so um,
I'm
that
glad. I'm glad. I'm glad that I was able to, share what I feel
yeah,
about
yeah.
them, which is why I feel so good to be a gamer.
Yeah, so with that, thank you very much for taking the time, and thank you for watching our video. So with that,
Thank you
uh,
for having me as well as your
yes,
guest.
thank you.
So with that, again, I hope that you learned a lot from this whole series of videos about video games and the narrative power that they hold. Uh, so with that, I hope that you took something from this and came to the realization that video games have evolved to the point that we may consider them as part of this larger media sphere, along with films and television shows, and that they do deliver something new, something unique when enjoying stories, when trying to have a sense of escapism from which is essentially a main focal point of entertainment. I hope that video games have really captured a different sense of enjoyment, of immersion, And I hope this project helped in conveying those senses of differences. So thank you for sticking out with me in this whole video series, and I hope that again you learned something from it.